Hey everyone, I am at Zurich Airport about to embark on another trip slash adventure slash long journey. This afternoon I'm flying to Oslo in Norway. Friday I'm going to be in Paris, then Deauville, Warsaw, and then I'll fly to Japan where I'll meet up with Elena, and then we'll be exploring Japan for a bit. We'll go to Hiroshima and probably a few other stops. On that note, if you have any recommendations on what we definitely have to see, please do let me know. And then we'll be back in mid-July, just a few weeks before our wedding. So today I want to talk about something that happens usually before this moment, before I'm at the airport and I'm about to board my flight, which is booking my travel. Someone recently asked me, how do I avoid decision fatigue while booking travel? And I think it's a feeling that I can relate to a lot. When I used to book my own travel, I would spend sometimes half a day just finding the perfect flight, perfect hotel, and compared to the gains that I've made, probably not worth it. But I totally understand the feeling of being dragged into this rabbit hole and then spending way too much time trying to figure out what's the perfect flight. So how do I solve decision fatigue now? For one, I have Bojan, who works very closely with me and who manages most of my travels. So very often it's not me doing the research on what exact flight to pick. Second, and that's something that everyone can do and that I can also do when I don't have Bojan, is I've written a document called the Cédric Operating Manual. Now I know this makes me sound like a robot, but I figured it'd be interesting to do my travel booking, but also how do I want to do my meetings, how do I want to plan my calendar, schedule, and so on and so forth. So I sat down, and this probably goes back 3 or 4 years, and I sat down and I started this document called Cédric Operating Manual, which should detail the way I do things. And I have one section in there called travel. And going through the whole list will probably be too long for this video, but I want to leave a few tidbits with you of what I thought about. So first, the tools that I want to use to book flights. To find the right combination of flights as well as pricing, I basically use 2 tools. Number one is Google Flights, which I found to be the most extensive when it comes to flight options. I think it gives a pretty good overview of which flights are available on a certain date. And then number 2 is Kayak. I found that Kayak is really good at having updated prices. And so what I typically do is I try to figure out the itinerary that I want to use first on Google Flights, and then I go over to Kayak and I try to find the best price for that. When it comes to flights, I typically have a preference for Star Alliance, so I have status with them, and as right now I can just go to the airport early and then get some work done in their lounge, which is something that I price in, which is worth typically 50 to 100 bucks to me. So if there's a flight on Star Alliance that's within 50 to 100 bucks of the minimal price for that routing, then I will go with Star Alliance and book it here. Similar for carriers. If I can book a flight on Swiss's or Lufthansa's or whatever official website, I will do that if the price difference is not more than 20 to 30 bucks. Why? Because it gives me additional benefits of like being able to reserve a seat, and they have a bit more flexibility if I should ever have to change my schedule. They give me a bit more functionality in general. Booking my hotels. So I hate commuting, so I typically try to book a place to stay at very close to where I'll be working, where I'll have meetings and so on and so forth. So that's my number 1 priority, and then number 2 priority is pricing. That's why even places like Miami or Berlin that I go to quite often, I don't have the one place that I go back to. I always try to make sure I'm in the right spot in the area, so that in the morning when I get up, get ready for my day, I don't have to spend like half an hour or even more commuting to the place that I need to get to. Typically I book Airbnbs or hotels based on how long I'm going to be in the city. If it's just 1 or 2 nights, then I typically stay at a hotel or a friend's place. If it's longer stays, I would typically book an Airbnb. Why? Just because Airbnbs in a lot of parts of the world are still not as quick and efficient to check in. Although hearing me say that, hotels are the worst when it comes to checking and efficiency, especially these big conference hotels when 4, 5, 6, 700 people are checking in a certain hour. Maybe someone can tell me, why has no one solved this problem? The same way I can get a boarding pass for my flight, why can I not get that same experience for my hotel? I just don't understand it. It just seems the most inefficient thing in the world. Going back to decision fatigue. So those are the 2 top criteria, and then I try not to spend too much time. I don't care about pool, I don't care about stars, as long as there's not some terrible reviews about Wi-Fi, because that's important to me. And then last but not least, once it gets closer to the day of travel, assigning a seat, I have a few rules. I typically look at flights of less than 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours, and over 4 hours, long hauls, and depending on those I might have different choices. So if it's day flight on a long haul, for example, I will take an aisle seat over a window seat. If it's a night flight, I will always take a window seat and try and sleep the whole flight. If it's a short flight, I don't worry so much about that, but I want to sit as far in front of the plane as possible, so that once we land, I'm on the ground and off as quickly as possible. And this is even more important if I'm going to a country where there is passport control or immigration. Now flying to Norway, which is in the EU, I will just be able to get off and not go through any passport control. But if I'm flying to the US, this becomes a lot more important. Alright, this is in short my approach at avoiding decision fatigue. In general, think about how you want to do things, write down principles and processes, and then either outsource it or make sure you strictly follow those processes, and then don't worry about $50 or $100 that you might lose along the way. I think the gain in time and energy that you gain back is far more important than those $50 or $100. And with that, I hope you're all well. Let me know if there's any follow-up questions, and I'll talk to you soon.